Alrighty lads, it has been a very long time that I covered Kingdom Under Fire, so here we are. Kingdom Under Fire lore. This time we talk about the main villain of the entire series. The main deity that all the evil villains worship. Is Encablossa evil? Some people have different pronunciations. Some people say Encablossa. I prefer Encablossa because Kingdom Under Fire Crusaders is pretty much how they pronounced it, and it makes sense to me to call it Encablossa. Makes sense to me. They kind of went back to that in Kingdom Under Fire Circle of Doom, so I'm staying with it. So, to start with this premise, I would say that you would watch this video in its entirety, as I will be going over all nuances of the old games, all the way up to the new games. We will be covering extensive reviews of Circle of Doom, as Encablossa actually talks to us in that game. But overall, I think the reason why you should watch this whole video is because the conclusion will shock you. And I can't just outright tell you it's a simple yes or no, because this is a very complicated question. Could the God of Darkness be evil? Well, let's begin. In all of Kingdom Under Fire, all of the games coincide that the universe started in darkness, till the light came. The problem with this is that in Circle of Doom, we see what really happened. This is the truth. Before Nibel and Encablossa, Nibel is the god of light, Encablossa is the god of darkness, there were two other gods. And before those two other gods, there was another two other gods, and so on and so forth. Nibel and Encablossa were mere children, just baby gods in the universe of emptiness. And as it turns out, from their research, each pair of gods before them would fight and end up overwhelming the limited universe, causing it to destroy itself and restart with new gods over and over and over again. So Nibel and Encablossa came up with a deal to prevent this. They wanted to be different. They didn't want to repeat the mistakes of the previous gods before them. They agreed that there would be one world, and that world would go through periods of lightness and darkness. Light for Nibel, darkness for Encablossa. Now that we have the backstory, we can work out the true grimy details from here. You see, the issue is that both gods are trying to prevent the one thing that has happened since time immemorial, which is total annihilation of the universe. They have learned from the mistakes of the past. The world being plunged into darkness is not a symbolic representation of bad days or ill omens. It's really just a time for Encablossa to rule the world and spread his creations onto it, as to ease the burden of the universe. And in this game, this is how Encablossa really treats it. This is all he sees and perceives his duty as. Now, this is where it gets very, very complicated. You see, Nibel and Encablossa would create fantastic creatures and monsters alike. Nibel, being the god of light, usually created things like elves, something that's fair and beautiful. Encablossa, on the other hand, being the god of darkness, he usually made monsters of pure nightmares. Any sentient species he made were usually primitive, like orcs, lizard people, ape people, very crude and dark things. But that is what his power can make. Typically, Nibel would grow attached to his creations. This is what Encablossa would state to us, is that every time Nibel would go to sleep, he would cry and weep over his creatures dying at the hands of Encablossa's creatures. So for the past few cycles, the past few hundreds of years, Nibel has been beefing up his creations, trying to make them more resistant to the Age of Darkness. This is something that Encablossa finds pointless, but irresponsible. This is unique to me, as I find it a classic tale of children with their toys. And that's truly how Encablossa sees it, that Nibel, his brother, is too sentimental of his toys, and can't share or let them go. Whereas Encablossa, he views this whole thing as a job. It's just a task that he has to do to maintain the peace of the universe, or else risk the collapse of the entire universe. This is where we get to the motivations of Encablossa to rule the world and to establish a dark age. It's not out of villainy as we kept thinking it was, but it's instead out of necessity. You may think, well, how do we know Encablossa is telling the truth? Well, we get hints of this throughout all of the Kingdom Under Fire games, even Kingdom Under Fire Crusaders, that Encablossa is being very serious and being truthful in what he says in the Circle of Doom game, that the Dark Dimension is overflowing, and that his monsters need to be released. They need to come out of hibernation and inhabit the world. You see, the example I'm going to show you is that in Gerald's campaign, at the very end of it, we see a post-credit scene that's kind of makes no sense. It's just a random dead Encablossan monster. It's odd to say the least, but now it kind of makes sense. Why is this monster here? The ancient heart is not destroyed, so why is there an Encablossan monster in the middle of the desert, dead? Why is it just sitting there? Well, it comes back to what I said earlier. The Dark Dimension is overflowing. It's overflowing so badly that random blips of monsters are falling into the world around its weakest point, which is the Heart of Darkness. But because they're entering the world in the Age of Light, the moment the sunlight hits them, they immediately die. This ties all back together to Circle of Doom. This is the issue. If Encablossa does not rule, then the Dark Dimension will collide forcefully with the world and cause the universe to implode, to be destroyed, like it has before in the past. And already, in the Kingdom Under Fire games, the Age of Light has gone on for far too long, to the point that his demons are just spilling out of reality with no control whatsoever. So what does Encablossa feel about this situation, you may ask? Well, we get it from the Circle of Doom game when we talk to him. He is annoyed. And this is where we see cracks in his personality. He is really breaking from the stress of this situation. Encablossa typically presents himself as a calm old man who is a fountain of knowledge on any topic and is more than willing to share that information. But when he's refused outright or addressed in a bad manner, like when Lionheart addresses him as equals, or Kendall, that's right, Kendall, refusing to stop his crusade to end the Age of Light, Encablossa becomes very irritated and very angry really fast. This is something that's interesting, is that in his anger he displays a deep sadistic undertone that illustrates he will torture you, and he will enjoy every second of it. To Encablossa, every life is a tiny useless soul that he discards with ease. But if that tiny pebble bothers him, he will put down his entire wrath down onto that pebble, driving it to insanity as he tortures it and makes sure that it can feel every second of that torture. We see a good example of this in the Dark Dimension, in Circle of Doom, where it turns out he let a group of people that I just call the ape people. They have a name, but I just call them the ape people because they look like apes. He let them have full sentience. At first, he did not give a crap about their lives or their civilization. He just let them build cities, invent technologies. They're fully sentient. This was until eventually their civilization reached a peak and they created a portal to talk to Nibel, Encablossa's brother. Here they worshipped Nibel. They loved the god of light. They think everything he stood for was beautiful. They loved it. They worshipped him. Encablossa was furious. He was pissed. He exacted his hatred on them by reducing their intelligence to animals. They can only speak 5 words. That's all their brain can really manage, is 5 words. That is it. They are essentially apes now. It is an odd thing, though, because on one hand, he says he does not care about his creations. And yet, on the other hand, he hates it when his toys, his creations, go to play with his brother, Nibel. It shows that Encablossa can be at times possessive, and reinforces the fact that he is maintaining the balance. He employs a I got my toys, you've got yours sort of mentality. He doesn't like the mixing and exchanging of creations. Again, we get this split personality where, on one hand, he doesn't care if his creations get absolutely tortured and wiped out by Nibel. He doesn't hold any care for them whatsoever. Go ahead, torture every vampire that I created and personally handcrafted. I don't care. But on the other hand, he gets really, really mad and will take his toy and question it and go, why would you play with Nibel? Why would you worship him? Are you stupid? Take this. And then he crushes it beneath his boot and makes sure it's the slowest crushing of its lifetime, that it feels every single one of its bones break individually before it dies. This is extremely severe personality issues. But at the same time, we can kind of see why. He's stressed. He's annoyed. He is beyond pissed, and there's no one for him to really present these issues with. After all, he will not address any of his creations as equals. He will not address any of Nibel's creations as equals either. He will just toy with them, because again, this ties back to the whole thing. When the universe was created, it was just two babies, Encablossa and Nibel. They were babies, children. So why should he treat anyone as equals? Anyone who's lived only 100 years, 1,000 years, is really no equal to Encablossa. So, with all this information, we reach to the end of the video. Is Encablossa evil? I do not think so. You see, there is no hidden malice or reason to Encablossa. There's no secret wish to why he wishes to rule the world. The only thing we know is that he wants to rule the world to restore balance and keep the universe flowing. And every character, Moonlight, and we even see some elven characters, they even say the same thing, that Encablossa would return the world back to the Age of Light. He wouldn't hold it for an extended period of time. He would just hold it for the allotted amount of time he needs to dump off all of his creations, let them rule for a few hundred years, and then he would immediately go back to sleep the moment it was his time to go. This is interesting. He may try to set up like some secret button or something that he can press should Nibel break the peace again. But other than that, it shows that Encablossa would be willing to keep his word on that issue. And after all, we do see that Encablossa does view Nibel as a sibling. He doesn't want to kill him. He just views him as a sibling who wouldn't share the Xbox. The sibling who hogs everything and grows too attached to everything. Encablossa is the kid who follows every contract and every rule that is set up around him. Here, the rules are so that way the balance is maintained, so he dutifully sticks to it and keeps citing to it as the main reason for his actions. In other words, he's deferring to authority. Like, it's not me that wants to wipe out all of your creations. It's our contract. It's what we understood. So he keeps citing to this that it's not him who wants to do this. He even states on how any other way would just result in conflict between the two gods. So he even says that them hibernating is a good thing, because then they have very limited interactions with each other. They have no reason to spill their anger into each other, like, you're an idiot for doing this, you're a dumbass for doing this. No. By them sleeping one at a time, it stops them from ever having to contact each other outright, unless it's through their own little creations. We do also see that Encablossa does have anger issues and he does torture people. That could be enough for you to say he's evil, but for me it's not quite that simple. Like Moonlight and Kendall, these are two figures who know that resisting Encablossa will cause the universe to collapse. Yet they choose to do so, and they succeed in more or less foiling Encablossa's attempts. So yeah, Encablossa being really pissed off and willing to torture them for all eternity kinda makes sense now. He's doing it because he's mad, he's stressed. He's like, you know the universe will collapse? yet you're defying me? Are you kidding me? If you know someone is going to hurt themselves and end up hurting everybody around them for no benefit whatsoever, but yet they still do it, I would be mad too. I would be furious. I would be fucking pissed. I would be like, are you fucking kidding me? You knew driving this car into the middle of a crowd was going to hurt everybody, but you decided to ignore my stop sign because, what? You think that you know better than me? No, this shit never works out. I'm the stop sign. I know why this works. So in the end, I view Encablossa as the right guy. In fact, in this messed up universe of Kingdom Under Fire, I think that Nibel is the evil one. Nibel here is committing acts of evil, and it's only because his over-attachment. I may do a video talking about why that is, but I would like to see your guys' comments down below. Write down any suggestions you have, and as always, see you guys next time. Peace.